All right, welcome back to another episode of the Loop podcast. I got my glasses on here because I wrote some questions out, which I normally don't do, but I have a very special guest today that I want to make sure I'm on my toes. I want to make sure that I ask him the right things, that we keep things organized because this guy is a very busy man, especially this time of year. But we want to welcome Executive Director of Mass Golf, Jesse Menachem, to the program. Jesse, welcome.
Brian, thank you very much. Good to be with you. Looking forward to
Yeah.
it.
I called Jesse, I don't know, 6 months ago and said, "Hey, I'm going to do this podcast and stuff." And I think he looked at me kind of like, "Yeah, okay, good luck. You and the other 100,000 people that are trying to do something." But it's been pretty good. I've been trying to bring, amateur golfers, other stories that you normally wouldn't hear, and I think this is one of them. I don't know. Have you done many podcasts before?
I've done a handful, but no, hey, I commend you for getting out there and any word, any mention of golf in Massachusetts, we want to support, right? So
Yeah.
let's collaborate on it.
So we talked a little bit before that you have been with Mass Golf since 2005, correct?
Correct. Yeah, I started off as a USGA boatwright intern for a couple summers starting in 2005.
So that was like a college affiliated type position?
Exactly. Yeah. So for about 3 months, I would support the organization mainly within the championships department. Um, and it's funded through the USGA, and it's a program that continues to this day. And it's been a tremendous vehicle for our team, our staff, and developing young professionals in the golf industry.
Excellent. And then obviously when you graduated college, you went back and as a full-time member of Mass Golf?
I did, yeah. Upon graduating from school, I was out at Indiana University. The Massachusetts Golf Association at the time invited me back to join our championship department. So I was in a role for a couple seasons and then ultimately became our director of rules and competitions. And I did that for about 6 years. So running all of our state championships, qualifying events, USGA qualifying, and then New England Golf Association championships.
So how many people right now work full-time for Mass Golf?
Yeah, we've grown quite a bit and we can talk through that. But right now, we've got about 30 full-time staff members that support Mass Golf, the association, and then we own and operate our par three golf course just down the road in Norton, the links at Mass Golf.
And then so I want to get into a little bit of dollars and cents because I think people might want to be a little curious about that. But obviously you have a membership, right? And that
Correct.
membership is how many people?
Yeah, we are fastly approaching 150,000 individual members,
That's
but
awesome.
but formally, we're an association of member clubs. So the 360 or so clubs and facilities across the state are our members. And by way of those facilities, we are able to engage with the 150,000 who hold a Mass Golf membership, a GIN number, and receive all the benefits.
That's awesome. Um, so you're working there for a few years and then somehow one day you're like, you know what, I want to run this place. I want to be the executive director of Mass Golf. What went into that decision?
Great question.
Hold on,
Yeah,
before
it
I'm sorry,
was,
before you answer, who did
yeah.
you take over from? I apologize. Who did you take over from?
Yeah, so taking a step back, so as our director of rules and competitions for, the 6 or so years, really, got ingrained with the organization, the people, our volunteers. We were a much smaller staff at that time as well. And my boss, our executive director at that time, was Joe Sprague. In 2013, Joe was actually hired by the USGA to become the regional affairs director of the Northeast. So that left his position vacant, and our board at that time decided to do really a reset national search. And I felt at that time I was cutting my teeth. I was still a little bit young, only 6, 7 years out of school. But I said, I feel I know this organization really well. Like I said, I know the people and how we're operating, and it drove me to put my hat in the mix. Went through that process and ultimately was selected as executive director. I think I was 26 at the time.
So that was an interview process, and what a board of directors selects who the next person is.
Correct. Yeah, they had a search committee involved that ultimately, went to our board of directors for selection and approval.
That's that's uh I mean that's great. It's so obviously I don't want to get into all the details because it's a lot, but like what is the and I won't say day to day, but what is the primary goal of the executive director on a year over year basis? Put it that way.
Sure. Yeah. So really overseeing the operations of the entire organization, reporting to our board of directors, supporting our staff, supporting all of our departments, our committees, and really the functions of the organization, right? We're the governing body of amateur golf within Massachusetts. We're a longstanding partner of the USGA. So within our territory, within our geography of Massachusetts, we provide USGA core services to our clubs and our golfers. So really overseeing that operation, going down, from finance, marketing communications, championships and events, member services, and our youth programs, our first tee and youth on course programs. So that's kind of the simplest way to describe it, and to simplify all that we do, because there's quite a bit.
Yeah, I can imagine. What's the relationship between mass golf and the head professionals at the courses?
Yeah, so they're hugely important ambassadors for us, many of whom are identified as our club partners. They'll carry out a lot of the services that we're providing, through gin, handicapping, course rating, rules of golf as well. But keep in mind, the golf professionals are also members of their own organization,
Right.
the PGA section. So uniquely in Massachusetts, we actually have three PGA sections that touch part of the state. So you have the New England section, the Connecticut section, which is more or less up the 91 corridor, and then the Northeast New York PGA section, which is in the Berkshires. So we're closely aligned with all three as affiliate organizations and allies. But yeah, I mean, golf professionals, superintendents, general managers, and certainly the volunteer leadership we are very closely engaged with at the club level.
And then the events that the mass golf runs every summer. Um, how do you come up with those? I'm sure that obviously there's standard events that you have every year, but are there things added? Are there things taken away? Choices, things like how is all that done?
Yeah, I'd say generally our event program is consistent year in, year out. Whether it be our state championships, our numbers are generally the same. As far as the venues and site selections, I mean, these are all through the partnerships of our member clubs. And, as an example, say looking at our Mass Amateur Championship, um, probably our biggest demand for that event, we'll see about 1,000 entries per year, individuals who qualify that sign up for one of our 1 day qualifying events. And we'll host anywhere from 10 to 12 qualifying events, depending on the championship proper that given year. And those will happen across the state, from Cape Cod to the North Shore, Worcester, all the way out west. We want to make sure that we regionalize not only the qualifying events, but the championships and events themselves. So all members can have an experience in different pockets and different regions within the state.
And then there's a final spot as well, right, for everybody that qualifies.
Exactly, the championship proper. So this given year will be at Winchester Country Club in Winchester, Mass. Um, and that'll change every year for that championship itself. Our member days, we run about 25 member days each year. Those will happen as well all over the state, anywhere from a Monday to a Thursday, and then all other tournaments will move around in a similar fashion.
So that kind of gets me to my next point, which is the youth golf in Massachusetts. There's quite an amateur program. Like I said, I've interviewed a few guys that have been through the whole process. What do you want mass golf's role to be in terms of like when a youth starts, when the kids start playing through, when they go off to college, I guess, or even beyond, because a lot of the high level amateur events you have are, 20 something, 30 something year old people. So
That's right.
what does that whole thing consist of?
Yeah, it's an important factor for us. So we want to be part of a golfer's journey from the start of their experience all the way, through the balance of their lives, their careers. But we also want to do it in concert and collaboration with some of the partners that are out there and industry partners such as U.S. Challenge Cup, New England PGA, the Francis We Met Scholarship Fund. And I'll share, there's just so many different ways that you can experience golf through your career. And starting young, there's programs now, PGA Junior League, Drive, Chip, and Putt. We operate the First Tee program, something we've been hugely proud of for over 20 years, teaching kids core values by way of golf as the vehicle, making them really just better people. We do that at program locations throughout the state, anywhere from ages 7 to 18. And you can graduate through that program based on your age and progress. But you know, whether you want to play competitively, casually, socially, we want to get these golfers in our community. We want them to be a member of Mass Golf. So, as a complement to that, we also run the Youth on Course program, which is really about affordable access. So, if a young player becomes a member through Youth on Course, they pay a small membership fee, and the rounds of golf that they play, they pay no more than $5 for. And we
Well,
subsidize the balance of that program back to the facility. So that's a mechanism for us to get these kids engaged with mass golf at a young age. Like I said, if they're competitive, social, or casual, we'll bring them into our championship events. We'll guide them to the U.S. Challenge Cup events or New England PGA. Or hey, if they want to become a caddy, what a great opportunity to align with the Francis We Met Scholarship Fund. So, we want to make sure that these kids have choices, they have options. We want to be a part of that journey. And certainly, if they're looking to be competitive, let's pull them into the Mass Junior Amateur, the Mass Girls Junior Amateur, um, make their way through the Mass Am, Mass Open, and even, through college. And then one additional program I would share, which is relatively new, is the U.S. National Development Program. And last year we launched Team Massachusetts as one of the 7 pilot
ooh,
8 girls within the state that are identified through a point system, and we support their journey to be recognized and to further develop and prepare for their college experience.
that's fantastic. How many states are involved with that?
So it started at 7 in year one. I think they're at 16. I wouldn't be surprised if they hit 30 in the year following. So by 2030, I think the whole country would be involved.
Yeah, I mean that's obviously probably draws a lot of eyeballs from colleges as well, right?
It does, and this was a big initiative from the USGA, wanting youth in America to fill up these leaderboards, at the LPGA level and PGA Tour level. They become very international, and it's a challenge for college coaches and recruiters to recruit within the states because there haven't been very centralized locations where they can recruit in a streamlined, efficient way. Now, if we have 50 state teams where you're identifying a couple hundred of the top best boys and girls, right then and there, you're going to be able to fill up your colleges and university golf teams and hopefully develop from there.
Yeah, talking with the amateurs that I've interviewed, they've attributed a lot of their success, a lot of their movement in golf and a higher level to what happened along the Mass Golf Road, which is tremendous. Do you I was going to ask that program for the affordability for golf.
Youth on course, yeah.
Yeah, do you have to have member courses, or does that apply to almost anywhere?
Yeah, so as part of our services, we actually have, I'd say 40 to 45 of our member clubs that participate in the program.
Hmm.
So they'll list their availability for kids and their families to take part in the Youth on Course program. But it's also national. If you're a member of Youth on Course in Massachusetts, you might have an opportunity in North Carolina if you're on vacation or
Oh
down in
wow,
Florida or Arizona to take advantage of other Youth on Course facilities that have opted in.
that's incredible.
Perfect example. I was on school break a couple weeks ago with my two kids, and they wanted to play some golf. Sure enough, down in Orlando, we found a short course that was a youth on course participant. I think we played for 3 days.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, they had a ball.
Um, do you get involved? Does mass golf get involved when remember the PGA used to play at Norton?
I do.
You get involved with that as well?
Yeah, we have.
And the
Their
LPGA
staff,
still plays there, right?
well, for a long time, their staff would actually have a presence here in our building, right outside of TPC Boston. Over the last couple of years with the LPGA in town, they've followed suit. They've had a handful of their team, 2 months prior with setup work, advanced work, and we've partnered with them as well to try to create some exposure for the LPGA event, the FM Championship, and working with some of our partners and even local players, right? Like a Megan Kang, who's been a
Yeah.
star. So we are absolutely a part of those events.
It seems like the PGA, based on the new leadership, how they're talking about, they want to have venues, like it was in the past with Northeast and in large cities. Um, have they approached you at all in terms of the Boston area? Yeah, I know they were at TPC, but they moved along after that, and then LPGA came in. But have they approached you yet for doing anything?
That conversation really wouldn't come to us necessarily, but I'm aware that there are discussions for the future as to whether or not the PGA Tour is able to come back, if the LPGA might be back for a few more years. So I wouldn't be surprised if down the road we do see this venue being utilized more and more.
Hmm. So I had Sean Mealy on the show, and we were talking about Sean's Bay State Golf, and he does the reviews of all the golf courses. His goal is to play every golf course in Massachusetts. Um, One big pain point he was talking about was courses, moving to solar and being sold, and just wondering, well, like, what's the current state of mass golf in terms of courses being lost or courses being sold or courses being added in? What does that look like?
Yeah, I think for the last several years, right, there's been this, rebalance of supply and demand. Demand is obviously incredible, post even a little pre-pandemic, but the pandemic created another surge. Here in Massachusetts, we have had a handful of course closures. There's a couple that are, under that microscope right now. I think it comes down to real estate. And on top of that, you've got these multi-generational ownership groups where, times have changed, circumstances have changed. The grandkids or great grandkids of an owner may not have that same passion or desire to own and operate a facility, and they see a different type of value. Now, from a mass golf standpoint, we would never want to see these facilities close. We'd want to see them thrive, and I think it's pretty clear that there's demand for golf out there. But for a private owner, it's a decision that's in their hands. The solar trends, it is unfortunate, but certainly understand the value to them. Um, and like I said, I think it comes down to the notion of supply and demand. And we want to support these facilities as much as we can, but for a private owner, we really can't get in the way of their business dealings. On the other end, from a municipal standpoint, if facilities we're starting to contemplate, their existence in a municipal setting, I think we would want to do as much as we can within the industry to try to work with them. Municipal golf, public golf is so important, to the golf ecosystem and to onboarding new golfers, introducing the game to new golfers. We need them to be strong and flourishing.
So along those lines, the number of rounds being played every summer, are they still increasing? Are they leveling off? Or
Yeah, we have seen a couple percentage points of increase in the last year. I mentioned before our membership, and just another stat to throw at you. Um, Pre-pandemic, our mass golf membership of golfers was pretty much leveled off at about 86,000. So the fact that we're almost double what we were, 6 years ago, I think it's pretty impressive and telling what the opportunity is. Groups like the National Golf Foundation share a lot of data about the opportunity within golf and particularly within the state. We're led to believe there's somewhere between 600 and 750,000 golfers out there that we could be engaging with, that we could bring into the community. So
in
that's our charge
Massachusetts?
in Massachusetts. Yeah,
Wow.
that's our charge. That's our mission to try to capture and ultimately get these golfers mixed in. So, they're visiting our facilities and creating business.
Do you think that golf is getting too expensive?
It's a good question. I think in some ways, yes. But I also know, average rounds are fairly reasonable.
Yeah,
I think it depends on what the experience is that you're looking for.
true.
I mean, private golf is a different animal. Equipment is another challenge.
Yeah.
But again, it depends on your experience and what you're looking to achieve in your journey.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Private golf. I live, Plymouth Country Club is in my backyard, and I was a member there for a long time. And talked about going back and just the numbers they were throwing at me. I was like, who belongs here?
Yeah,
You know?
well, I know a lot of clubs too, they're in that position of reinvesting in their facilities,
Yeah,
whether it be the golf course, as the main asset, the facilities, and I think trying to cater right to to the golf experience, but also the member experience, right? And um, offering services and amenities to everyone within the family. That's a big trend these days, as golf needs to fit into everybody's lifestyle.
yeah, and it's funny in Massachusetts we have such a. Well, I mean, the window is, we call it 6 months, but I mean, playing golf right now is just not comfortable. Maybe it's because I'm old, but
We've been lucky the last few years with
yeah.
early springs, but this one has not been in our favor.
Oh, brutal. But just the number of rounds being played is still up there, which is great. And the weather is, we just have a small window, and it's because I have friends that moved to South Carolina and stuff, older guys that retire, and the affordability down there is a little better because they have 12 months a year basically to, run their operation where we got to do it in like half that time this year. Um, but what about indoor golf? Does Mass Golf get involved in indoor golf?
Yeah, we have had some programs and events of late, but I would just share anecdotally, I've seen facilities uh, come open within the last 6 months on a lot of different blocks in different pockets of the state. And I think it's translated. It's a great option, right? Where 10 years ago we really didn't have that option to keep a
No.
golf club in your hand. And I think it's served as a quality on-ramp, for your new golfers. But I think it's helped with skill development as well. And I think about the depth chart we have now in Massachusetts at the amateur level, but also at the junior level. I'd attribute a lot of that to the technology and the fact that you can swing your clubs 12 months a year and have a not only a good experience doing it, but getting the data, getting the information and the feedback that's available
Yeah.
has just been a tremendous shift.
Yeah, with the technology, it's been incredible. Actually, my son was texting me yesterday that he bought there's a brand new launch monitor on the market for $200.
Yeah.
I mean, before that, I mean, you'd pay $4,000 or $5,000 for one of those things. And, who's doing that unless you're getting paid to play golf? But
I've got my 12-year-old son absolutely obsessed with one of those small monitors and every day hitting balls into a net, getting the direct feedback. I mean, I would not have been doing that at 12 years old. I can assure you that.
No, I mean spin rate. I don't even know what that was. How long can you keep the basketball in your finger, right? When we were younger, but
Right.
no, it's fun. The technology is great. It gets better and better. I haven't seen yet an indoor facility that has great putting. That's the
Yeah,
one
there's
thing.
some technologies out there, and I think you'll see more. But yeah, most are really just the standard
Yeah,
simulator unit, right?
and it's good too because you can play 18 holes in half the time, if not even more, than you can on the golf course. Although I enjoy the round with the guys. The
Of
the
course.
four the 4.5 hour round, which is great. Um, what's the future of mass golf look like?
Yeah, organizationally, I think we want to continue to facilitate, to add value to the golfers, the members' journey and experience, to our clubs and facilities. We want to be that resource, whether, we have it or produce it or can facilitate the introduction to it. We want to be part of that golf journey for everybody and be part of, make this community bigger, stronger, and more effective and keep evolving while doing so. Um, we're bullish about that. We're excited about that, and I know our team, our board, our leadership, everybody wants to continue this wave of golf momentum. We're cautiously optimistic, right? I mean, these trends have been pretty strong for 6, 7 years now. So you also want to be realistic at the same time.
Yeah, and do you keep track of like new starts in terms of new youth members joining or year over year and things like that?
We do. Our renewal numbers and retention numbers are quite strong.
Hmm.
You mentioned the youth specifically. Our Youth on Course program last year had about 12,000 kids in it playing over 35,000 rounds. And we're already at that number in March this year
Wow.
for number of members. Hopefully, with the weather turning, we'll start to see the rounds pick up some more. But I think it just shows, where the trends for youth golf will be going, right? And how important that's going to be to the industry long term.
What worries you about the future? Does anything worry you?
Yeah, I think, yeah, certainly real estate. We've talked a little bit about that. I think sustainability, um, it hasn't completely hit us yet, but, the issues that the western part of the country are facing with water are pretty alarming. Even in the Midwest, Texas and what have you. But that's a concern coming this way. I think our coastal concerns are also up there as well. Erosion and what have you. We've got
Yeah.
so many facilities that are on the east coast of the state that you want to be able to protect, right? I mean, you've got such incredible history and architecture within these golf courses. On top of that, making sure that demand continues, that golf remains relevant. One unique thing I would just share, I more anecdotal, but growing up kind of in the Tiger era myself, I feel as though golf has become cool again. I think it's relevant. I think people are embracing it in a much different way through um, you know, off-course experiences, clothing, equipment, simulators that are transportable. So I think, to be able to embrace that is exciting for me. So that's something I would also call out.
Yeah, and I think especially the last couple of years, things like YouTube golf
That's right.
has exploded. So it's getting in front of eyes that normally wouldn't see it. And
It is. And yeah, taking a page out of that book too, we've done a lot more in the media world, but also storytelling world. For an organization that merged, back in 2018, we've got hundreds of years of history that needs to be shared. And our team is doing an incredible job, whether it's through social media, our newsletters, our publication, or even TV shows. These are some new ways that we're engaging our golf community, but also as ways to share these stories and important highlights.
well, that's exciting. So just gonna wrap it up. Any last thing that you want to impart on the viewers as far as mass golf and or whatever you want to communicate right now.
Yeah, hey, I think, every day is as a golf day. That's the phrase we're living by. Make today a golf day. Be a part of the community. And you don't have to be a high level elite amateur player to be part of mass golf. There's so many ways to engage, to take part, and have a great experience throughout Massachusetts. So encourage everybody to check us out, play mass golf, be a fan, be a spectator, and be part of this growing community.
Excellent. One last question I should have asked at the beginning. Are you a golfer?
I am a golfer. Yeah, I am. About an 11 handicap right now. Having a little more fun seeing my kids grow up with the game and watching their action, but still have the competitive juice after a decent high school career, I would say.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's great. All right, Jesse, I'm going to let you go. This was fun. I enjoyed it. I think the viewers are going to enjoy it. Hopefully we, opened up a little bit of information that they normally wouldn't have about mass golf, and keep up the good work.
Appreciate it, Brian. You have a great season ahead.
Thanks. I'll talk to you soon.
You got it.